Dear friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into another TryHackMe Loom looking glass. I'm going to take a different path to get an initial foothold on the target machine. To be honest, I've spent a bit long time getting this because I used and also I'll be using Python to conduct immersion rather than shell scripts. And another difficulty for us is that the native module of Python, such as socket, cannot work very well. And also paramiko module can't work either. You will see what I mean when we get there. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. So now, let's jump into Linux to begin with. Sorry. And to save time of this video, I've already completed the map scanning. So now we can get out its result. Let me make the font to be bigger so you can see what's going on exactly. Let's scroll up a bit. So as you can see over here, I took different options other than, in comparison to other machines, because I didn't want such port scanning very long. As you can see here, I took the options of SV to scan version information and use the uppercase PN not to perform live testing. In other words, the map will assume that the target machine is always online. The last option for all is ON to output the result into this file. Then we can retrieve scanning results whenever, just as what I'm doing now. You can notice here the IP address of the target machine has changed since I respawned the target machine. Anyhow, this will not affect our penetration. From the map scanning results, we can see there are so many open ports. And if you look at the service column, most of them are SSH service or secure service. Although, the first one, the port 22, its version is very typical Open SSH 8.2. But other SSH service, their version are different. This is a job beer. And if you don't know what it is, you can go to the Google and make some research. Actually, this is the lightweight SSH server and client, and it can run on a variety of Unix platforms. Okay, so now we can go back to Linux. So what we are going to do next, we need to make immersion for all those ports one by one. Let's start with the first one. And we can try to SSH to the target machine. We can copy. And at this moment, we do not have any username information yet. And by default, if we do not specify username to SSH, and the local user will be used. This case is Kani. Of course, we do not have its credential. Even the Kani is invalid user name on the target machine. So now let's connect to or SSH to the target machine on different port number like 9000. So to see how it behaves. Unfortunately, we are returned this error, unable to negotiate with target machine on this port number. No matching host key type found. And the target machine offer this algorithm SSH RSA. So to solve the problem, we need to put additional option. And as you know, SSH can support a variety of options. If you want to get the full list of such options, you can, of course, you can go to Google to make some research, but alternatively, the main or help of the SSH command can give us, okay, such information. SSH. So as you can see, the all option can be used to give options in the format used in the configuration file. And this list all of all supported options. So which option we should take in this case? We need to specify different the key algorithm which is compatible with the server or the target machine. Yeah, this one we can copy and let's SSH to the target machine one more time, but with the additional option, and we can set it to SSH RSA. Press enter. This time the such error has disappeared. We are given this response or string instead lower. A bit weird, right? Even we are not asked to provide username and password. We just are given this response lower. So how about the next port? Our job here is to get pattern when we use different ports, because I'm almost certain that our the key information should be located in one of those ports. I mean the very long list of ports. Okay, we need to find out this port. We can hit enter. We still get this response lower. So how about we SSH to the target machine on the highest port number discovered by the map? We can copy. To see whether the SSH of the target machine will act differently. Okay, press enter. Indeed, the response is different from the former responses. Higher. So it looks like if we when we specify different port, we will be given we will be returned different responses. If the port is less than the port, I mean the target port, and we will be returned lower. Vice versa, we will get the response of higher. But but our job, our task is to find the correct or accurate port which contains the important information for the next steps. You can manually walk through all open ports, but because of the two reasons, this way is not reasonable. The first way, this will be very time consuming, will take a very long time to complete. The second reason, even we can manually walk through all ports. The map, because the map cannot give us 100% accurate results. In other words, maybe the map has already missed some open ports. So how to do? We can take Python to automate this process. Okay, so this is I'm going to demonstrate next, and I'll be using PyCharm editor to create our own program. You can use any other editor what you're comfortable with, like Sublime, like VS Code. Okay, so now let's open the PyCharm editor. Let me maximize the window. So I have already opened up this Python file. And first of all, we need to import some modules. The first module I'd like to import is socket. This is a built-in or native module of a Python. But I'd like to point out for you, the socket module itself cannot work. Let me simulate and let me explain this by using netcat command for you. Desktop, TryHackMe. Looking, we can, maybe I need to copy IP address again from notebook. And as you can see, this time we are given or we are returned different response. Even though you can submit this information back to the target machine, and we can get this response, but such a response doesn't contain lower just what we have seen earlier, right? So why is this? Because SSH protocol or SSH service involves a bit complicated negotiation. The socket or the netcat itself alone is very difficult to implement this negotiation process. Okay, so this is the reason I'd like to point it out for you. And the next module I'm going to import is pexpect. This time I will not use paramiko, although I have already demonstrated the paramiko, which is third-party module of Python to make interactive share with target machine. You can use paramiko to automate the process of authentication, and also can get interactive shell. Okay, but that one is usually used for the normal situation or scenario. This time, as you have already seen, every time we use different ports, we will, the behavior of SSH will be different. So instead, we need to use pexpect module. This is the built-in module of Python, and this module can be used for automating interactive applications such as SSH, FTP, but in most cases we use pexpect to automate SSH application or surface. Okay, so in terms of modules, just I mentioned at the very beginning of this video, I've spent a bit long time to find the appropriate module. In this case is pexpect. I tried to use a paramiko module, but that module cannot work very well. Okay, so let's go back to Linux to go on. And also, I think we can import the time module, because I do not want our program to flood the target machine. I do not want the target machine down. Okay, And next, we can define the variable of the target machine. I mean the target IP address, host equal, oh, not this one. I need to copy IP address from notebook and paste it in here. Next, I need to define functions. The first function I'd like to define is port scan. So why I define this function is that because the map, although we have already got open port information by the map, unfortunately the map cannot give us 100% accurate result. Okay, so we need to make a port scanning one more time to make sure we will not miss any open port. Okay, and we can give one parameter port, and we can print some message, and we can use formatted string. So collecting to port, and we can use curly braces port, and then we can initialize the object of a socket class socket, and we need to at least specify two parameters. The first one is address family socket. So this is IP4 address family. Next is to specify transport layer. This case is TCP, not UDP. Sock string. And then we can, connect. We can take the second option, sorry, not option, method, EX, and we can give one tuple. The first element in this tuple is target and then port number. And this function or this method returns an integer. An integer, if the collection is successful, the returned value would be 0. Otherwise, it would be other integer like 1 or 2. Okay? And then we can close this socket, close. And then we can return the result. Next function I'd like to define is SSH collection. Simulate the SSH command in the command shell to connect to the target machine and gather response or grab the response from the target machine. Okay, define SSH check, and like the first function, we can give one parameter port. And first of all, we need to define the command, and also we can use format string SSH. Just I said we need to put some options. For example, the first option I'd like to put is I'd like to disable host key checking. And you can get this information from the main. So what's this? I think this one, strict host key checking. Oh, to know, right? And we also need to put the second option. I do not want to save the public key to the host file. I think this one, we can copy from here. Equal to now, or black hole in the machine. And the next option, just you have already seen, we need to specify the host key algorithm, and also you can get it from the main. Which one? Host. Yeah, this one, host key algorithm. We can copy and put over here. we can set it to SSH as A, right? And then we can specify port number, and this port number will be passed later, okay? And also you can use any string as username and the host, okay? And then we can spawn a child. This will try to simulate SSH communication or process. So pexpect spawn, and so we'll submit the command cmd. But here we have to specify timeout because we are doing this CTF over internet. In my case, internet speed is not very well, and we can put it to 10 seconds. Otherwise, we will miss some ports, okay? And next, we can, run its method expect. So which kind of response, what we are expecting? And this would be list. The first one is password or the password prompt. And we can use square brackets, right? Password. And the second possible response would be lower, right? And the next would be higher. Just I said earlier, when we use different ports, we will get different response from the target machine, okay? And the next is pexpect EOF, end of a file, and also timeout. And next we can have some if statement. If I equals 0, this means password prompt appears. So we can print something like, we can call it like, we can call it port and requires password, okay? Next, maybe we can copy. So if I equals 1 means lower, and we can print a message like lower port, lower, just. Oh, not if, this should be elif. And then we can copy this block, paste in here. If I equal 2, and we can print a message higher, and elif. The 3 means EOF. For timeout, okay? And if we get anything else, we can use else and print. Else print port other, other information we need to manually check out, okay? So next, I think next we can make a for loop to enumerate different ports, right? And we can, although I mentioned the nmap scanning results are not 100% accurate, but I think this can be the first step, because I do not want to, perform enumeration from port 0 to, 65535. This will take a very long time. So instead, I'd like to generate the port list. So we can use AWK, not grep, SSH, and then we can use the AWK, print the first column, the first column. And then we can use the cut. Also, you can use AWK, but the cut is simpler, right? And the first column. And then we can save to file like a port list. And now let's go back to PyCharm editor. We can open port list file with read-only mode as F handler for line read lines method. And the port is we need to convert a string to integer, which can be passed to the function above functions later, right? So the line strip. Okay. And then we can have if port scan the port equals 0. This means port is open, and then we can run the second function SSH check. Okay, and between each try, we can introduce the delay, like yes, this one. We can save. I think that's all. Right? So now let me bring back the terminal window to run our program. So collecting port, this is not what we are interested in, right? And connecting to the port 9000, and the port is lower. And this is, taking a bit long time. See you later. So now our program is going on. And as you can see here, when the port is this one, we are returned lower. And when we use this port, we are returned higher. So of course we can let the program run. The bad thing is that the program failed to discover the correct port, which possibly contain the key information for the next steps. But the good thing is we have already get the scope of such a port. The port should be located between this one and this one. The reason for this is that just I mentioned earlier, the mmap possibly failed to identify some of open ports. Okay, anyhow, we can copy this port and this one. So now our job next is to find the port, the correct port within this scope. And to do that, we need to modify our program a bit. So we can, I think it's done. It's almost done. We can we can come out these lines, and then we can, for example, we can use for range, for port in range. And we can copy. You get my point, okay? And we can if port scan port equals 0, and then we can call another or second function port. As before, we can introduce the delay. Okay. So now we can save our program and let's run it again. So this port is lower. And also response for this port is lower. So this will take a bit long time. I'd like to pause the recording. All right, I'm back. As you can see, we successfully identified this port because its response is different from all others, right? Possibly the port you will get is different from my port, okay? So now we can connect or SSH to the target machine on this port number. We can copy and paste over here. Although here the response is timeout, maybe this is not very accurate. Anyway, we have already discovered this hidden port. And when we SSH to the target machine on this port number, we are given this mystery message. And you can scroll up. So solve the challenge to get access to the box. And we can copy this word. Actually, this is a poem, but the message below it is a bit strange. It looks like there is some sort of encryption involved, like rotation. So we can use the subchef like ROT 13, but ROT 13 cannot decode or decrypt this message properly. Instead, we can use another type of rotation encryption, okay? Encryption, sorry. And actually, I have already made a copy, and you can scroll down, you can get the result or, the clear text, and then we can get this secret. We can copy and scroll down. We need to supply this secret. As you can see, after we successfully supply the secret and we are given this message, it looks like this is the password, this username and password we can copy. Again, this information is dynamic. Every time you do the CTF or you do the room, the message will be different. We can paste over here. So now I think with this message, we can try to get access to the target machine on the default port number 22. Okay. Oh, sorry, I forgot to specify username. We can copy and paste in here. At. And then we can copy this password, paste in here. Sorry about this pop-up window. It does work. So beautiful, right? So now we can grab the user flag. Although I think this is some sort of another operation reversed. So I think this can be done or can be decoded easily. Reverse, right? Oh, sorry. and then we can get the user flag. So what we are going to the next, we need to make lat movement or even privilege escalation. And this is the poem, what we have already seen, right? So now we can go to home directory, Alice, permission denied. Go to hump, TryHackMe, Ubuntu, SSH, but current user doesn't have access to this directory. Okay, so next we can run sudo, and the current user may not run sudo. So, this is different from other guys. When the other guy, after the get the initial foothold, and then the user jabber walk can run sudo. But in my case, I can't. I don't know. And I tried to, for example, we can try to upload the NinPR shell script to perform automatic enumeration. But besides local exploit, the only one important information or vector I can find is cron job. And we can take another way to, as you can see here. And this we can, this user when reboot, every time the machine is rebooted and will execute this script, and we can check this home jabber. Although current user has permission to modify this script, for example, we can put the reverse shell script or command to this script, and then when the machine is rebooted, and then we can get another shell, and that shell should belong to this user. But because of the reason, the current user cannot run sudo. And now the TryHackMe, if we, respawn the machine, and everything will be, from scratch. So this is not what we want, right? So anyhow, I cannot get privilege escalated because of some reasons, and I tried to get a vector and try different ways, but none of them can work. Okay, so I have to end this video here, but I think the key technique in this video I have already brought to you is Python. We can use Python to make automatic enumeration. Okay, so that's all for the video. I hope to see you next. Bye. Have a nice day, please.